Alrighty, so today there was some big news that came out of MLS regarding Apple TV MLS Season Pass, as more names have been introduced as part of the broadcast team for Apple TV MLS Season Pass. Now, I'm not sure exactly if this is the last batch of names that's been hired by Apple TV to be part of their broadcast team, because in the last video where I talked about a couple of weeks ago about the first couple of names that's going to be part of the broadcast team for Apple TV, they're going to continue to hire before the season begin on February 26th. But if this, of course, is the last batch of hiring and these are the last names that's part of the broadcast team, there's still definitely some names that I can think of that is going to be left out in terms of being part of the broadcast team for Apple TV. But at the same time, we also look at the list of names. There's definitely some good names that's going to be part of the broadcast team. And like what I did last time, I am going to kind of talk about them and give my thoughts on it. Though mostly I will only talk about the English one, because for the Spanish kind of broadcaster, I don't really know much about them. But the first one I'm going to talk about, and we're going to start with the match analysis and the list of names that's going to be also part of the broadcast team as the match analysis, is definitely a very familiar name, even if it's a non-English kind of broadcaster that's part of Apple TV, is Patrice Bernier. And the reason why it's a very, very well-known name is that if you're a Canadian national team, you know that Patrice Bernier is definitely going to go down as one of the best Canadian player to play on the national team. And the same goes for CF Montreal. I mean, Montreal fans will always consider Patrice Bernier being one of their club legend, a player that started his career with Montreal, going all the way back when Montreal were still in the lower leagues, and finishing his career when Montreal, of course, went to MLS in the early 2010s. So yeah, this is definitely a very recognizable name. And again, this is kind of the thing that I've saw with Apple TV, where they're definitely hiring a lot of names that are players that is very well recognizable in MLS. And I don't think that's by accident, because if you're a general audience, you want to of course see someone that you can know straight away that, hey, I watch him play during his playing career, and that it's great to see him now elevated into the broadcast level too. So yeah, that definitely is the case for Patrice Bernier. I'm pretty sure for a lot of French Canadian speaker, they'll be very happy to see him being one of the color commentator. And then after that, we got another non-English speaking color commentator in Eduardo Bisquet. But then after that, we got a couple of English-speaking color commentators, starting with Brian Dunsett, who was the RSL color commentator. And I think that he is definitely one of the more underrated color commentator in MLS. I do enjoy listening to him when I watch RSL games, and I'm glad that he, of course, is now part of the team. And the same goes with Danny Higginbottom, who I think he is probably one of the best, if not the best match analysis and color commentator in MLS. And I'm pretty sure Union fans would just straight up say he is the best, because not only the fact that he does a good job in terms of explaining the game, but the way that he goes in depth in terms of analysis and how the game is being played is something that is just kind of next level. It's something I don't see a lot of color commentator do in MLS, and that, yeah, it was pretty much not a big surprise to see he is going to be part of the broadcast team. And I'm pretty sure this is also a name that a lot of people were thinking that they hope that Apple TV is looking to hire him. And another name that I think a lot of people, including myself, were wondering is he going to be part of the broadcast team, is Kobe Jones. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that if you're going to announce Mo Adu as one of your match analysis for the broadcast team, you might as well just include Kobe Jones there. Like, similar to Mo Adu, Kobe Jones has been working a lot as a match analysis for Fox for a lot of these MLS games, and even working as a match analysis in some of the World Cup game that Fox basically broadcast. So it was a no-brainer of him decided to be part of the team. And not to mention, I do also enjoy listening to him even during the time when he, of course, is one of the main color commentator for the LA Galaxy. Then we got Devon Kerr, and this is a name that I'm not that familiar with, other than the fact that I think he's the lead color commentator for the USL Championship game. And it's great to see that we have some of these lower league kind of color commentator, including in the broadcast team. Because one of the things that I was wondering with Apple TV is the fact that, well, they're probably not going to hire anybody from the USL Championship or even lower level, because they'll probably just continue to be broadcasting games in those kind of environment. But that's not the case here. I mean, it seems like they love what Devon Kerr has done in terms of being the lead soccer analysis for the USL Championship, and now he's going to be part of the Apple TV broadcast team. Then we got two Spanish speaking match analysis in Jaime Macias and Francisco Pinto. Then we got Heath Pierce as one of the match analysis for Apple, or one of the match analysis that's hired by Apple TV. Now, for Heath Pierce, I mean, he's okay. I think that is definitely not one name that I thought that Apple TV was going to hire him. I mean, I guess maybe they figured that if they decide to hire Max Bertos, they might as well hire the guy that partners with Max Bertos a lot in those LAFC game, which is Heath Pierce. I mean, there's times where you kind of go off topic a little bit, in my opinion, and that, there's times where I don't think he does a good job in terms of the size of the game, but he's not what I think the worst color commentator. Like I can definitely think that there's worse color commentator in MLS compared to Heath Pierce, but yeah, he of course is going to be part of the team. And another name that also I'm kind of a little bit surprised that is going to be part of the match analysis, part of the broadcast team for Apple TV, is Loy Sam. Now, I will say this about Loy Sam. I think he got better as the season goes along. I mean, the beginning of the season, I thought he had no idea what he's talking about half the time, and also just the fact that he's very homer for Charlotte FC, and I think that homerism kind of got stronger as the season goes along. And when you have like kind of a national broadcast like this, you don't want to be too homer to certain team. You want to stay as neutral as possible, and that we'll see whether or not if Loy Sam of course can do that, because again, when you listen to those Charlotte FC kind of broadcasts, it's kind of weird. There was time where I didn't really like the announcer and how Loy Sam of course that. I mean, there was times that he tried to make it fun, but there's times where you want to of course sometimes make it fun, but also you want to at least keep it in a professional way, and that there was times maybe Loy Sam not only become a little bit too homer, but just kind of being a little bit unprofessional in terms of how the way that he was being the color commentator for Charlotte FC. Now, moving on to the other color commentator that's part of Apple TV is Ross Smith, and I figured that the fact that knowing the fact that the Portland Timbers have one of the best broadcast team in MLS, if you're gonna hire Jake Zivins, I was hoping they might hire the color commentator as well, and that of course is Ross Smith. Now, obviously, Liam Richwell is the other color commentator, but obviously I knew immediately that he was not going to be part of the Apple TV broadcast team, because he had took a role for the Portland Timbers. So the case now goes with Ross Smith, and hoping that maybe he will be joining the team as well. And indeed that of course is the case. Really enjoy listening to him alongside with Jake Zivins, and that again, there's a reason why I say that the Timbers have probably some of the best broadcast team in MLS. And it's not just Jake Zivins being one of my favorite play-by-play commentator, but the color commentator on that team in Ross Smith, I do really enjoy listening to him too. Then of course we got Carlos Suarez, who is one of the Spanish match analysis. And then finally, to finish off of the last name that's going to be part of the broadcast team, at least for the second batch of announcement of names that is going to be part of the broadcast team for Apple TV, is none other than Jamie Watson. Very happy to see Jamie Watson being the match analysis. Like, I think you could also say that, if I would have done a snub list last time, I would have mentioned Danny Higginbottom, Kobe Jones, and Jamie Watson, because Jamie Watson, I still do miss him during his time with Minnesota United, even though it was just not for a very long time before he become one of the color commentator for Nashville SC. But yeah, I really enjoy listening to Jamie Watson, and that, as I'll also kind of talk about in just a bit, it seems like the Loons maybe are trying to get the band back together in Apple TV way, because I think all three of the broadcast team that Minnesota United used to have is actually going to be part of the broadcast team for Apple TV. Now we go into studio hosts, and for studio hosts, we got Stefano Fazaro as one of the Spanish broadcast studio hosts, and then in the English part of the studio hosts, we got Caitlin Kyle as one of the Spanish, or not Spanish speaking, but the English speaking studio hosts. Now Caitlin Kyle, she was a sideline reporter for Inter Miami, and I do enjoy her too. I mean, I think this is kind of one of the things with Apple TV. They want to hire more female kind of broadcast team to be part of them, and I think Caitlin Kyle is definitely one of the best one to do. Now, in terms of studio analysis, they actually decided to hire Chip Messing as the one of their studio announcers. Now, I'm not particularly happy about this one, because I really don't like Chip Messing. I think he is probably one of the most annoying color commentator for these MLS regional game. I mean, I would say maybe even the most annoying, depending on how obnoxious he can be at times. But as a studio analysis, I guess maybe it could fit better for him. Like, I feel like he's kind of almost like have the same personality as what Alexi Lawless has. I mean, I know a lot of people hate Alexi Lawless in terms of his personality, and that, we'll see if Chip Messing maybe might provide that same kind of personality to do there. I mean, I guess the Apple TV just need to have their own version of Alexi Lawless, and I think the closest one probably will be including Chip Messing as one of the studio announcers. Now, another interesting name that was actually not part of the last batch of hiring is that they actually hired a rule analyst for their Apple TV broadcast team. Now, obviously, we see Fox and ESPN have their own rule analysis, and it seems like Apple TV decided to have their own too, and they decided to hire a female as one of the rule analysis in Christina Uncle. Now, obviously, anytime when you have a last name associated with Uncle, that's gonna definitely trigger some MLS fans, because unfortunately for Christina Uncle, she probably may always be remembered as the wife of Ted Uncle and one of the worst referee in MLS. But in the case for her, I think she's done a good job, at least in some of the game that she's been refereeing. And not to mention, this is not something new for her to be one of the rule analysis. I think she was the rule analysis for the UEFA Women's Euro game too, for I think it was Fox that broadcasted the game, and now she's going to be one of the rule analysts for the Apple TV MLS Season Pass. Like, surely she can't be worse than Dr. Joe Matnick in terms of how bad he was being the rule analysis for Fox and all those games that is broadcast there. But now we get to the exciting part of me kind of reacting some of these names that's going to be part of the broadcast team for Apple TV. It's the play-by-play commentator, and there's definitely some notable names that is going to be part of the play-by-play team. The first name, we got Dre Cardero, that's going to be part of the play-by-play commentator for Apple TV. This is kind of a bit of a surprising one in a way that, I thought Dre Cardero was probably going to be working now more with Paramount Plus, since, he's been working a lot of games for Paramount Plus and all those kind of league that Paramount Plus currently has. And not to mention, he also has worked a couple of play-by-play games at the U.S. Men's National Team World Cup qualifying games, where when some of the U.S. Men's National Team World Cup qualifying games was on Paramount Plus. But yeah, this is definitely a good name to introduce. I do love the style that Drake Cordero does, and I do enjoy listening to him when Inter Miami, of course, broadcast game. I mean, when Inter Miami has like their broadcaster, obviously everybody want to tune in because of Ray Hudson, but don't forget about Drake Cordero. He's a good commentator, very experienced commentator, and that, again, the only surprise is I thought he was gonna be moving more toward Paramount Plus and doing more game for them, but he's gonna be now part of the broadcast team for Apple TV. Now, the other name that's gonna be part of the play-by-play team is Keith Costigan. Now, this is another name that I think I can easily say that in the last batch of play-by-play commentator that wasn't mentioned, that I'm definitely thinking that they're going to hire them and going to mention if they do have an announcement of announcing the next batch of play-by-play commentator for Apple TV. It's Keith Costigan. I mean, he's a guy that's the main play-by-play commentator for the Seattle Sounders, but also he's been doing a lot of play-by-play commentator for Fox, and that I think he's kind of almost third in line in terms of being the play-by-play commentator for Fox. I mean, I know the first in line is Stu Holding and John Strong, or actually it's the other way around. It's John Strong and Stu Holding, and then the second line, of course, is JP Dellacamera and also Mo Adu. Speaking of JP Dellacamera, again, he's not listed in this list, and from what I heard, at least from Union fans, they've said that it seems like he's probably not going to be part of the Apple TV team, but at least Keith Costigan is definitely there, and I do enjoy Keith Costigan. I mean, if it for the Sounders broadcast, I think it's a decent one. If you minus KC Keller and his negativity that he's spread around, but when Keith Costigan does being the main play-by-play commentator for those Fox game, I do enjoy listening to him there too. Then we got Matt Cullen as one of the French play-by-play commentator. A lot of French-speaking Canadian fans will know him being the French language play-by-play commentator for all those Canadian national team games. So again, it's another name that I'm pretty sure no doubt Apple TV decided to hire him because he's been broadcasting or doing play-by-play kind of thing or kind of events for kind of these big games and big network, and yeah, that of course is an example of it. But then you also got Kevin Egan being one of the play-by-play commentator. Now, Kevin Egan, there's times that I do like Kevin Egan during his time as the Atlanta United play-by-play commentator, but there's times where I'm not I'm not a big fan of him, and especially the fact that, again, he does sometimes share a bit of homerism, especially toward Atlanta United, but he's also another guy that has been sharing a couple of games being the main play-by-play commentator for those national TV game, and that, yeah, again, you start to get a theme that if you are, of course, part of the big network or part of Fox, that is being the play-by-play commentator and not part of the main team, then you definitely still have a good shot in terms of being hired by Apple TV, and that of course is the case for Kevin Egan. Now the next name we got Mark Followill, that used to be the play-by-play commentator for FC Dallas. I'm not gonna lie, this was a name I didn't expect to be the one that may be hired by Apple TV. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think Mark Followill is a very good commentator, very underrated play-by-play commentator in my opinion in MLS. Really enjoys some of the games that he called for FC Dallas, but that was definitely not one name I thought he was going to be included, definitely in terms of recognizability, that a lot of people probably don't know him unless of course you watch MLS regular like I do, or you're an FC Dallas fan. But then in terms of the Spanish play-by-play commentator and one of the free Spanish play-by-play commentator, we got Adrian Garcia Marquez. Then we got Adrian Healy as one of the play-by-play commentator for Apple TV. Obviously, you know that I am one of the biggest fan for Adrian Healy, and I know that he definitely has received a lot of criticism, especially when he is the play-by-play commentator for Austin FC, where, yeah, the amount of homerism that Adrian Healy has shown for in the FC during when he is the play-by-play commentator is just kind of overblown. I mean, I was really shocked in a way where I'm almost don't recognize Adrian Healy at first. Like, is that him broadcast in game? I mean, I recognize the voice, but the style that he does and the amount of homerism that he's shown during those Austin FC broadcasts, I mean, that's just I just don't think that's him. And I think maybe this is just because of the fact that, you know, maybe being on a regional network, he has to at least kind of show that homerism a little bit, but it was kind of overblown in a big way. And that hopefully now that he's back on the national TV stage, or at least broadcasting these games that is not Austin FC, I think he's going to be just as good as when he used to be the lead commentator for ESPN and all those MLS games. And then in the next game, we got Eric Correa, and again, this is another name, just like what I said about Loy Sam earlier. I did not expect the whole Charlotte FC broadcasting that is part of Apple TV too. I mean, you know, I mean, there's times where I do like the style that Eric Correa does in terms of his play-by-play, but there's times where he can be a little bit annoying to hear, but still, you know, they decided to hire him as one of the play-by-play commentator. And then, of course, we also got Jorge Perez Navarro as the Spanish commentator. You also got Francisco X Rivera, who I forgot to mention, he's also a Spanish-speaking play-by-play commentator for Apple TV. Then you got Mark Regino as one of the play-by-play commentator. This is a weird one because, you know, if you're an LAFC fan, you know that he basically is the studio host for their pre-halftime and also post-game kind of match. So this is probably, I think, the only play-by-play commentator that I've seen in Apple TV that has hired. That is actually not the main, that hasn't done a lot of play-by-play commentating jobs. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how he's going to do, because, you know, it's not easy for someone to transition into a role where you're the studio host and now you basically are one of the play-by-play commentator. And then, of course, you got Sergio Ruiz, who is the Spanish play-by-play commentator. And then in the last two, we got Tyler Terrence as one of the play-by-play commentator for Apple TV. Obviously, Tyler Terrence, very recognizable, not only with the Chicago Fire, but he also has done a lot of high-profile USL Championship game. In fact, that's kind of almost his specialty, alongside with a couple of those US Open Cup games that he has done. And that, you know, I think he's definitely one of those one that, you know, there's times where he can get a little bit annoying, and he can be a little bit kind of, I would just say kind of confusing to listen in terms of giving his play-by-play kind of commentary. But, you know, he's definitely one of the more upcoming ones, and that, you know, I don't think there was a lot of surprise that he was going to be part of the broadcasting for Apple TV. And then finally, to wrap it up in terms of the last play-by-play commentator that was announced to be part of the broadcasting, and I am very happy that this name was announced. Like, I was almost crossing my two fingers that this was going to be a name that was going to be hired as one of the broadcast team for Apple TV. It's the one and only Callum Williams. I am so glad that Cal got a job with Apple TV. Like, I was hoping, like, you know, when Kendra D. St. Alban was mentioned in the first batch, I was hoping, you know, yes, it's great that we at least have one half of the Minnesota United broadcast team still being part of Apple TV, but it would be really nice if we can have the other half with Cal Williams and even Jamie Watson being back there. And, you know, I really hope that in some of these Minnesota United games, we might see Cal Williams or Kendra D. St. Alban or even Jamie Watson basically broadcasting the game that the Loons, of course, play. Now, obviously, they're going to try their hardest in terms of not showing their homerism toward the Loons. And in some way, I think Cal has done a great job in terms of, because I know there was one game where it was a U.S. Open Cup game against Fort Madison, where Cal Williams and Jamie Watson basically was the commentator duo, and both of these guys, of course, were were guys that have worked with Minnesota United as the broadcast team, and they did a good job in terms of not showing a lot of homerism toward Minnesota United. But I have a feeling probably Apple TV, in terms of how they decided to organize the broadcast team, they're not going to have Cal Williams basically calling every single Minnesota United game. I mean, in an ideal world, I hope that of course is the case, but it's probably going to be spread out. But at least in general, I just love his voice. I mean, if you want to talk about my favorite play-by-play commentator, Cal Williams is definitely at the top of the list, and it is not because of my bias toward Minnesota United, but it's just in general. The way that he does play-by-play commentator, in my opinion, probably the best in MLS last season for a regional network. So great to see Cal Williams that is part of the team. But yeah, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these broadcaster that's part of the broadcaster team for Apple TV MLS Season Pass? What are some of these names that is not on this list that you would love Apple TV to hire them and be part of the broadcast team? Because like I said, there's definitely still some notable names that I think they could definitely hire as part of the broadcast team, and we'll see whether there's going to be more announcement of that as the time goes. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.